The Monster Below, Nightfall by Greenback, read by Deathlight, Chapter 2, From the Gates of Paradise. There's an old saying, from Equestria's darker, less civilized past. To torment someone, take them to paradise and let them enter through its gates, then drive them away to the darkest depths of Tartarus. Not only will they suffer from the pain of the flesh, but the agony of knowing what they almost had. Like so many others, I had disregarded this saying as babbling nonsense when I first heard it. Only now do I recognize how true it really is. 2 years ago, I was at the gates of paradise. It wasn't an easy journey to get there. I had manipulated so many and almost succumbed to death, and inadvertently gave my worst enemy the power to destroy nearly half of Manhattan and kill hundreds in the process. I was an outcast and a criminal, but it was on the train heading to Camelot that I found my paradise. It was there that Beefbreaker, my only friend, revealed that she still had feelings for me, despite everything she had gone through. Not only that, but my parents, whom I feared would disown me, had revealed that they, too, still loved me. For a few hours, I had a family, I had my paradise. But it wasn't to last. Near the end of my journey, I glanced out the window and spotted Camelot before us. I had never been to the capital of Equestria before, and should have been excited. Instead, I felt the fear of knowing that something horrible was coming, yet there's nothing you could do to escape. The train pulled into Camelot Station an hour later, and my heart was pounding with every beat of the engine. I stayed in the rail car with Beefbreaker and my parents as long as I could, knowing that the moment I feared would come at any second. Shortly after the last pony exited the train, 4 Princess Lina's royal guards came for me. A royal carriage was waiting for us when we left the train. Nobody spoke as we got in and rode away. Beefbreaker and my parents stayed close to me, as if they were shields that could protect me from what was coming. I tried to focus on them, to let their presence give me strength as we rode past Camelot, and deep into the mountains behind it. I didn't dare look out the windows, clutching Beefbreaker's hoof as hard as I could. Then we stopped. We had arrived. My shaking legs could barely keep me upright as I got out of the carriage. We were before a large drawbridge that was raised high, blocking our view of what lay beyond it. Several guards kept a close eye on several ponies chained together. Some were cold and stoic, some were nervous, one was crying. The head guard looked at me, at his hooves were a pile of chains. I embraced my parents, clutching them as hard as I could. And like any parents about to see their child sent off to prison, they were barely able to keep themselves from having a nervous breakdown. Mom was a blubbering wreck. Dad tried to assure me that it'd be over before I knew it, but I could tell he didn't believe it. Both of them promised they'd visit as often as they could and write to me every week. When I got out, they said they'd take me away from this awful place as fast as they could. It wasn't easy to let them go, but letting go of Beefbreaker was worse. She was the first true friend I've ever had. And just when we were starting to heal our relationship, forces beyond our control were tearing us apart. She tried to find words of encouragement, something to give me strength, but nothing came. And I, even with my silver tongue, was equally as silent. The head guard picked up the chains and started towards me. I didn't want my loved ones to leave, but I gathered them once more and told them to go. They said nothing, but I think they knew what I was doing. It was better that the last sight of me was as a free pony, rather than being dragged away in chains. Getting back into the carriage, they looked out the window as it rolled away. Our gazes focused on each other as long as we could manage. And then the carriage turned a corner and was gone. I was numb. I felt nothing, which made it easier to bear as the guards surrounded me. I was marched to the others, and a steel collar was locked around my neck and chained to the others before me. The drawbridge creaked as it was lowered, revealing stone gates as tall as a building. As we were forced to cross the bridge, the gates swung open, revealing a dark void beyond. The crowned pony broke down and screamed, begging not to go inside. He tried to stop, but a poke from the guard's spears forced him on. As we reached the gates, I looked at the sky above, now yellow and pink from the glow of the setting sun. I wanted it to be the last thing I saw as I was taken from paradise. As we were marching to the abyss, the gates groaned as they slammed shut. The march into the mountain's dark depths was a blur. I remember little being processed of having my belongings taken from me, of being scanned several times to ensure that I didn't have any charms or aids to help in an escape, and being forced to change into an orange jumpsuit. The collar was removed, only for a thinner one to be wrapped around my neck and locked into place. I could barely focus as the subtle shackles and chains were locked around my legs. And then we were marched into a room where the prison's warden awaited us. After a brief moment of looking us over, he told us about our new home. We were going to be staying in one of Equestria's most secure prisons, designed and built to house the most dangerous and worst of the worst. Only Tartarus itself is stronger, but this place wasn't to be taken lightly. We would wear our jumpsuits at all times, and our shackles were permanently attached while we were here. Our color was the same, for it was equipped with a spell that allowed the guards to know exactly where we were at any given time. Good behavior, following commands, and staying out of trouble would be rewarded. Getting into fights, disobeying commands, or disrupting the order of things would lead to a loss of privilege. And if the charges were serious, we'd be sent to the prison's more secure levels. With the briefing over, my fellow prisoners and I were taken via elevator deeper into the mountain, until we emerged into a tall, cylindrical chamber, the bottom of which was so far down I couldn't even see it. Each floor had several gates, and while most of the prisoners continued down into deeper levels, I was taken to one of those on the utmost floor. Once inside, I was led through a labyrinth of tunnels and halls, no doubt built to disorient inmates who might try to run for it. We came to a barred door. It swung open to reveal an empty cell. I was pushed inside, the door was locked tight, and the guards left. I looked it over. There was an alcove in the wall for sleeping, a hole for toiletry purposes, and nothing else. This was going to be my home for the next 2 years. The first few days of my incarceration were the hardest. There were no windows, no lights from torches and candles set within the halls, casting the dungeons in a permanent twilight. With no indication of day or night, I was relying on guards hitting gongs to know when it was time to sleep and wake up. Every day started with a breakfast of the most tasteless food imaginable, followed by several hours of work. We were not only the prisoners of this place, but its janitors as well. We were all forced to clean its halls, cells, and common areas. Following that was lunch, then reading from the library, dinner, and then our cells until the next day, when it would start all over again. I was a nervous wreck, but the terror slowly faded as I fell into the same routine, day in and day out. It was a blessing in disguise. It gave me little time to ponder my situation. According to the rumors from my fellow inmates, we were the lucky ones. Those below us suffered even more strict routines, with those at the bottom being forced to live in complete darkness. Inquiries with the guards didn't reveal the rumors were true. My guess is that they encouraged them, so as to keep others in line through fear. But I did learn something unexpected. Manga's blue horn was being stored here as well, and he was one of those in the prison's deepest level. Not that I cared. As long as he was down there and I was up here, that was fine with me. After 7 days, my nervousness faded. I'd gotten through my first week with no problems, well, almost. With little light reaching into my cell, sleeping in that cramped cove brought back memories of the tunnels beneath Salalanca, and the thing that nearly caught me. Night after night, I was haunted by nightmares of the thing coming after me. Sometimes I never found the horn, lost forever within those tunnels. Sometimes I'd be a baby, other times I'd be an old stallion. Sometimes the creature would show up, and other times it wouldn't. I would get glimpses of its enormous eyes and teeth, or find that there's nothing there. However the nightmare played out, I would inevitably wake up with a scream, only to shriek more before realizing that I was in the cove, and not trapped beneath the earth. Those night terrors eventually convinced the warden to allow a small, glowing crystal be placed in my cell, which acted as a nightlight. The nightmares didn't go away entirely, but it helped. But even then, I was still trapped within the earth. Weeks passed, and I realized no matter how big a disaster or catastrophe, those involved eventually gone on with their lives. I did so, but so did Beatbreaker and my parents. I wanted to see them, but visits from loved ones was a privilege, not a right. Before I had to earn it, I got a letter from my parents saying that they'd be going back to Salalanca to run the gardening shop. I got a letter from Beatbreaker as well, cautioning me that her work with Medicom was keeping her extremely busy, and she wasn't sure if visits would be possible. A month passed. Staying true to their word, my parents sent me lots of letters, telling me every little thing that was happening in the world beyond the mountain. Beatbreaker was only able to send a few. Medicomp, she told me, wasn't doing well. She was having to put in mandatory overtime every week to try to keep up with the latest research, and soon would have to start going on publicity tours to try to win back the public's confidence. But she assured me that she would try writing when she could, hang in there and be strong. Time passed and the fear of prison faded away. Like so many others before me, I had adjusted to my new life. I even got used to wearing shackles all the time. But with the shock of prison life gone, I was in a state of never-ending tedium, where you're not the beginning of something and the end is still far off. Minutes passed like hours, hours like days, and days like weeks. But what was worse was knowing that I was losing time. These were 2 years I would never get back, along with the opportunities that they would have offered. So many other ponies were living their lives and fulfilling their dreams in the outside world. They were starting families, having picnics, going to the movie, and spending time with their loved ones while I was locked away. None of them knew I was here, none of them cared. I was alone. Months passed, every day fell into the same boring pattern, but little fears began to gnaw at me. Regrets and what-ifs became a constant companion. I should have been more clever when I was trying to become an alicorn. There had to have been a way to achieve that dream and avoid running afoul with the princesses. If I had done so, I would still be free, and probably famous and powerful beyond measure. I would have had everything I ever wanted. I quickly learned to think like that would lead to madness. I tried to stop, but it was so hard not to daydream about what could have been. And I was one of the luckiest ponies in this place. I had a life waiting for me on the outside. So many others didn't have that. They would spend the rest of their lives down here, never seeing the sun and moon, never to know freedom again or have their dreams come true. For prison is the place where dreams come to die. My only dream was to be with Beatbreaker and my parents once again. All I had to do for that dream to come true was endure and wait it out. After all, that's what Celestia would do. During those days and nights, I had to find a way to keep myself motivated, knowing that I would see my family and Beatbreaker again would have sacrificed. But I was laying in my bunk one night. I realized there's another tactic I could use to motivate myself. Not only to make it through the 2 years, but also prepare myself for life beyond bars. All I had to do was keep asking myself one question. What would Celestia do? Celestia, my idol and my inspiration, had been the reason I tried to become an alicorn. That had failed, but she still could inspire me. Whenever I faced a hardship that seemed insurmountable, or an obstacle seemingly too great to overcome, all I needed to do was ask myself, what would she do? And what would Celestia do in my position? She would make the most of her situation. She would hope for the best, and she would do what she could to make life better, not only for herself, but all those around her. Thus, I had my mission. For the remainder of my time behind bars, I would take inspiration from Celestia, and work to become greater than I'd ever been going into this dark place. I would shine her lights. A year passed. I finally earned enough merits to gain the privilege of decorating my cell. I brought books with me, and the glowing crystal allowed me to read before going to bed. A few months later, I was allowed to have the scroll that Princess Celestia wrote to me, along with little Celestia. Many a night passed with me, drifting off under her watchful gaze, and whenever despair threatened to overcome me, or life itself seemed meaningless, she reminded me of my mission. Spring came, then summer, and finally winter. Those of us fortunate enough to still have family and friends received gifts. Mom and Dad sent me photos of Satalanka and all those areas of Equestria that they had traveled during the long vacations I had recently embarked on. There were pictures of the Crystal Empire, Rainbow Falls, Subtle Arabia, and even events like the Passage of the Breezies, an annual pie festival in Appaloosa, and a yearly air show by the Wonderbolts in Cloudsdale. One photo even had them posing with Captain Rainbow Dash, and a message from her wishing me the best of luck. A bit odd considering that she had helped turning me to stone in Manhattan, but my parents had no doubt hoped a celebrity endorsement would give me encouragement. Every photo had notes on the back, and the reassurance that one day we'd see these places together. I mounted these photos on the wall, creating a mosaic of Equestria, reminding me of what waited after my sentence was done. But what really got my hopes up was when I finally got a letter from Beatbreaker. She apologized for not having written in so long. She had been all over Equestria on publicity tours for Metacomp. She still couldn't see me, but promised she was counting down the days until I was free. I kept that letter with the one Celestia had written me. Both lifted my spirits many times in the days to come. When it came to an end, and I reached the halfway point of my imprisonment, it was getting easier to bear. Spring came again, then summer, and then fall. I could have given into the daydreams of everything I was going to do once I got out. But instead, I kept focused on my daily chores, tasks, and classes, and trying not to gag on the tasteless food. Every morning, I asked myself how I can make this day better for everyone I meet. I would offer a smile or a nod of encouragement when it was needed. When someone was on the verge of breaking down into tears, I would go with them or help them with their chores. Not everyone appreciated my gestures. Some resented me, and even a few attacked me, but such fights were rare. No one dared to risk being sent down a level and having their sentence extended. The guards knew it, and a few took pleasure in trying to provoke us. When they tried to provoke me, I invoked my silver tongue and reminded them that because I'd be working for the princesses, I had the power to ensure that they'd be fired from their posts. The guards didn't try bothering me afterwards. The days counted down. I mentally kept track until I had a month to go. Then 3, 2, and finally, I reached my final day as a prisoner. And now, here I am. I'm laying in my alcove, freshly awake from another nightmare. It's taken me most of an hour to finally calm down. But now I'm regretting having tried to sleep at all. It only takes me a few minutes to pack up all my things, and I decided to try and sleep, rather than slowly wait for midnight to come around. Still, now that the nightmare is gone, I'm getting excited again. I've waited almost 2 years for this moment. By this time tomorrow, the shackles and chains will be gone. I'll have my life back, and the Alicorn nightmares will finally be over. Well, it'll be over for me at least. I may be getting out, but Mangus won't. I wonder what he's doing now. Is he sitting in the darkness, lost in the nightmares like my own? Is he raging as Luna for the sentence she gave him? Or is he sobbing, wishing he had another chance to prove himself? I don't know. 2 years in this place would break anyone, and, as my dad would say, it's only when you're broken that you can finally rebuild your life as something better. Maybe I should ask to go see him. To say goodbye perhaps, but it didn't feel right. What would Celestia do in this situation? She probably would want to wish him well and hope that one day he'd find peace. That's what she would do, but it's not what I would do. For the longest time, he was my worst enemy. But now, I don't feel anything towards him. No anger, no hate, not even mockery at his sentence. He, on the other hoof, would never listen to my sympathy. He'd rage and roar and possibly try to hurt me. I won't see Mangus. I'll spare him the rage of seeing his worst enemy be freed. Something he'll never experience. There's a sound coming down the hall outside my door. In the quiet, there's no mistaking what it is. Hoof steps. Getting out of the alcove, I put a little Celestia in my bag and stand at attention as the warden and 2 guards come to the door. Flanked by 2 guards, seeing that I'm already awake, the warden pulls out a scroll. Is he smiling? Silverspeak, by the order of the 2 princesses, you were sentenced to 2 years in the Counterlot dungeons. You have been a model prisoner during these 2 years. And it is my pleasure to announce that, as of now, January 1st, you have completed your sentence. A guard unlocks the door. You're free to go. I can't grab my bag fast enough. I'm flanked as we leave the cell and head to the main rotunda. From here, we take the elevators up to the room where I was processed so long ago. The guards cast their magic upon my collar, and it falls away, letting my raw skin touch the air once again. The shackles and chains come next, and I'm finally free to stretch my legs for the first time in 2 years. I can barely resist wanting to jump up and down as I'm allowed to remove this accursed jumpsuit, and I almost throw it away in disgust. The last of my belongings come next, along with my tie, which I put on and straighten. I came into this place as a prisoner, but I will leave with my dignity. I'm escorted to the gates, and I don't bother holding back my grin as they slowly grind open, revealing an upright bridge before me. It's slow, revealing a clear path to the road beyond. As the guards stand aside, I walk into the cold, crisp air of the night. Closing my eyes, I take a deep sniff. 2 years I've waited to do that. 2 years of smelling wet, damp stone. And now I can take my first whiff of fresh air. It's like inhaling candy. A breeze blows, beckoning me on. I follow it across the bridge. I walk out first, then I trot, then I canter. And finally I run. At long last, I'm free.